I'd like to take a few moments today and talk about distractions. I've been in sales my entire adult life, and like most people, I've had my highs and lows, better known as the roller coaster in our profession. When I really hit my stride selling, I realized that it wasn't from me necessarily closing better or developing better skill sets or fundamentals in my selling. It had to do with my work ethic and the ability to block out distractions when in my route. I knew that if I just played the numbers and locked in on my why, I'd have a better opportunity to speak to more people. It seems simple enough, right? I remember years ago, I just got back to my market that I was assigned to, and I didn't get to start the company that I was working for would have liked. So they sent me down to North Carolina for a month to get some extra training in. I was livid. I had already been away from my family for 45 days and almost walked away from the opportunity altogether. My first day reporting to the manager in North Carolina, I rode with him for an entire day doing sales calls. The first thing he said to me when I got in the car is, "Today we won't be talking about life or any of the things you like to do in your personal time. My time is valuable. I like things done the same way each day, and if you have any questions about the process or why I did or did not do something in the house, I'd be happy to answer them." I was thinking, wow, this guy's a real asshole. Then it's like I instantly matured and realized that although I didn't have much to learn from him from a selling perspective, instantly I saw something that he did different than me, which could be the reason as to why he had much more success early on. He understood the importance of focusing and blocking out the distractions. As the night came to an end, I learned my second lesson of this journey. It was about 8 o'clock, pitch dark outside. Our next house was 45 minutes away. I was getting excited. The day was coming to an end. I wanted to get back to my hotel room, get something to eat, watch some TV. And then he proceeded to enter the address into the GPS, and off we went. He looked at me and asked, "Be honest, if you were by yourself right now, would you have went to this next house?" I looked at him and said no. Something changed in me at that time as well. I realized that although I was more skilled than him, he had an ability that I didn't, to block out the distractions and push himself to do what other people didn't want to. I instantly adopted those things into my arsenal, and from there on, I had never looked back. Over the years, I've had many sales reps join my team, and I would always tell them that secret. It's simple. I've learned to put my blinders on, get locked in on my why, and push myself to do what others didn't want to. Sometimes that meant hitting the door in the rain, the snow, through sickness, or being exhausted. I knew to get to where I wanted to go, I had to follow Bill Belichick's Super Bowl parade rant of no days off. Most importantly though, the hours I was in the field were hours dedicated and focused on my why, the reason I was so hungry to begin with. Now to me, that came natural. I had to talk with my wife, well, then she was my girlfriend, and I told her that during my routes, I liked very little interruptions. It's not that I didn't want to hear from her, especially when dating. Every time her number popped up on my phone, it made me happy. It's just hearing about my kid skinning his knee, or what I wanted to eat for dinner, or if the gas bill was paid, etc. It took me out of the zone I was in. Now imagine answering the phone for a bill collector, hounding you about a payment, or a friend talking about their favorite sports team, etc. You see, when my girlfriend would ask those simple questions, although with no ill intent, it would slowly get my brain thinking about the things that we had just spoke about. When we got off the phone, it's the same thing with the bill collectors. Now I'm stressing out over something that I could do nothing about unless I have money. Obviously, I'm not 100% locked in if my brain is thinking about other things, right? Just something to take into consideration. Years ago, I read a book called The Power of the Subconscious, and I encourage you all to do the same thing. You don't realize the little things that you could hear, say, or do that spark deeper things that live within you. I trained my subconscious to be my voice of reason. When the phone rang, it told me to stay locked in. When the text came, it said respond later. Go do what you gotta do and get this money. Over the last couple of years, it's crazy because I've had some extremely talented individuals come work for me, and I just knew they would be very successful in this career. However, the sales numbers didn't come. The common denominator, each instance, was life issues, distractions. You see, my leadership style was different. I was in the field with my people, leading the way. I had enough respect for my guys to really challenge them when they struggled, digging into exactly how their day played out. And I didn't speak to anybody, or nobody was interested. That wasn't good enough for me though. I knew the numbers. Hell, I understand the numbers better than anybody. It's impossible to go 3 to 4 days without speaking to anybody or finding somebody who's interested. I always knew that meant they didn't get through their route, and they simply weren't playing the numbers. I came to the realization that the enemy I was up against was today's technology. I realized people were so addicted to their smartphone that it would rob them of their why. It sounds like many other addictions, doesn't it? I've watched drug addicts, I've watched alcoholics, I've watched gamblers lose everything in life. Even though they had a why, even though they had a huge heart and a desire to accomplish their why, the addiction ultimately was too strong to accomplish it. You see, I took a route. And I went from point A to point Z with no pause, no hesitation. If I had to use the restroom and I passed one on the left-hand side of the road, I didn't stop. It would cost me too much time to get over there and back to where I was heading. I would silence the notifications on my phone. They didn't matter. I would ignore phone calls from any and everybody, including sales reps. And I always had a rule that if the second call came in back to back, I would then answer because I knew it was an emergency. My staff was trained. They knew the product. They had their why. We discussed their why. And I knew how bad they wanted to accomplish it. The problem is they weren't able to point out their distractions. That's crazy. Think about that. They weren't able to point out their distractions. When explaining you can't use your time in the field to make personal phone calls, I would get the response, "It doesn't affect me, Mike. I can multitask." I realized I had an uphill battle, and it was a battle that's fairly new to me. You see, it became natural for me to understand this, right? I was forced. My back was against the wall. My life was at an all-time low. I owed money. I missed my kid's first birthday, right? I came back. I didn't have a home to live in. I was sleeping on my sister's couch. It wasn't an option for me. I couldn't fail. Failure has never been an option for me. I had to give it my all, and I knew that if I could put my nose down to that ground and never look up, and block everything out from the left and right side of me, then I could get what I was trying to get. And I got it. Right? I would break down examples of time on the phone, time wasted sending text messages, or posting a photo on Facebook, or checking the responses and the likes. Then I realized that this is no different than drugs or an alcoholic or a gambler. That feeling of acceptance, that release of dopamine that people got, that's what they live for. But I wanted to teach them that they could have that same feeling of acceptance walking out of a sales call with a sale. Nothing beats that feeling. To this day, nothing beats that feeling, knowing you're one step closer to being financially free. And that the process I'm working works. Or I just got a sale that I had to jump up in the tree to get and shake all the branches to get that yes. No one else on the planet would have got that yes. But I did. That's the dopamine that I became addicted to. Regardless of the talks though, even after a rep would take the advice and have a huge week or a huge month, another month down the road, we'd have to visit the talk again when the sales numbers would drop. I realized I had to stop preaching about blocking distractions. That wasn't deep enough. I had to teach people how to point out the distractions in their life first. Just like an alcoholic has to admit he has a problem, a sales rep has to admit he's not giving 100% if during his route he's on the phone, texting, on social media, playing on apps. It's just basic math. If each day you're spending an hour and a half on the phone or playing around with things that aren't going to get you to your goal, then each week working 6 days a week, I have now put in 9 extra hours. That's 2 extra days in the field of my industry. That's 50 extra houses that I'm speaking to. That's 3 to 4 extra sales. So it wasn't that I was a better closer or I cherry-picked my leads. I just knew that time was something I could never get back. And if I can give 100% to my why, my children, my wife, my legacy, my dreams, if I can't give 100% to that, then what would I ever give 100% to? If I'm away from the people who are most important to me in my life, I at least want to make it worth the while. I at least want to make some money to support us. That's common sense, isn't it? Unfortunately, not for everybody. I once asked a guy, how much do you pay for your phone each month? He said, I don't know, about $100. Why do you ask? I said, because I think you need to recalculate. I think you're paying close to $3,000 a month. Because of the opportunity you rob yourself of, getting so locked in on who's texting and tweeting about you, arguing with your spouse, shouting at the bill collector, scrolling through emails. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't see athletes on the sideline texting and making phone calls when their team's in competition mode. I don't see attorneys on the phone when fighting a case or doctors taking photos and Facebooking pictures when conducting operations. Seems like the only person I know that can make a ton of money and tweet 24/7 is President Trump. And damn, it took him nearly 70 years to get to that point. But seriously, follow me on this. Point out what is keeping you from your goals and be honest with yourself, not embarrassed. Hell, we all have issues. We all have distractions to deal with. To this day, I'm not as efficient as I know I can be. And when I'm trying to get a task done, I have to sacrifice some of the things I have going on so I can lock in on what I'm doing. I remember hearing about Michael Jordan, betting people that he could tie his shoes faster than them in practice. Or showing up to the Bulls camp after his retirement to call out the rookie who was trash talking him. And he worked him. I remember that look in Tom Brady's eyes on the sideline, and the faces of his teammates, and the focus and precision I watched him lead his team down the field with. Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba, same thing. Nothing else mattered but winning. And ironically, that's what they did. They won. Tiger Woods dominated for years, locked in, lights out, changed the game of golf like nobody ever changed a sport. And then he gets caught in a scandal cheating on his wife and hasn't won since. Is it because he can't golf anymore? Guys, success is a mindset. You are what you say you are. If you're hungry, then put your phone down. Anybody who loves you will understand that for 6 hours a day, I'm going to be locked in on my money. And if they don't understand, maybe it's time to tighten the circle you roll up with a little bit. Maybe it's time to make some changes. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. We live in a land of opportunity. However, it's what you do with that opportunity that determines the outcome. If I was